All right. Welcome to another meeting of Fantasy Sports Addicts Anonymous.
Woo!
My name is Ryan.
Howdy, Ryan.
Howdy. And I'm a fantasy sports addict.
My name is Tom.
Hey, Tom.
I am also a fantasy sports addict.
Okay, so we're here today with our part 5 in our draft strategy series. This is
Part
5 of 5. So today we're talking about auction draft strategy.
Okay. What is an auction draft, Ryan?
Well, an auction draft strategy is very different than a normal draft where you get assigned a draft position and it goes in order or snake order and you pick the player that you want. In an auction draft, everybody gets, say, $200, and yeah, they're randomly assigned a order, but they nominate players instead of draft them.
So it's a level playing field. Everybody has the same amount of money and the same chances to get all the players that they might want, right?
Yeah, so everybody has the same chance to get Anthony Davis.
All right. I like this idea already. Whoa, don't get too excited, right? If you've never done an auction draft, there's a few things you should know. They take a very long time.
A very long time. So plan on 3 hours?
I'm saying 3 to 5 depending on the sport, right?
Yeah.
And that's not a joke. That's not.
Are the size, the managers, the roster positions, they can get real goddamn long.
It takes a lot of time, but the end result is actually quite worthwhile, I think. The other thing you should know and need to do if you've never done an auction draft, mock draft first, please. Okay, don't go blind into an auction draft, especially if you've never done one. We did this. This is the only reason why we're actually telling you not to do a blind auction. Don't jump in and you will be leaving brain matter all over the wall. Okay, that's how insane it is your first time. Okay, just be ready to be blown away.
So just if you've never done one, do a mock draft, but make sure that's mock where there's actually full of managers in there.
Real
if
people.
You're mocking with bots or computers or whatever, you're not going to actually learn anything.
No, and you're not going to get a good taste or a good idea of how players tend to go on runs or things get valued differently across the draft. It does get weird in auction drafts sometimes, so you need to have a little bit of pre-experience, I think. It helps.
And one of the things that's really nice about auction drafts and stuff that you should do before you go and do it, have an idea of the players you want and the type of team that you want to build.
Exactly.
So it's having a plan going into it.
Now, all the rest of these videos in this draft strategy series, we've been talking about how your draft strategy is sort of dictated to you by where you're picking in the first round and the kind of players you get maybe subsequent to that. This type of draft, auction drafting, you're the one who dictates what your team will be. You can choose any kind of team you want going in. As long as you're willing to spend the money at the right time in the right places, you can get any kind of team you want.
Speaking of spending money, what is the number one rule when drafting an auction league?
Spend your money.
Make it rain, bitches.
Right, and we advocate this for one very simple reason. If you have a bunch of money left over at the end of the draft, that is essentially a player wasted. A good player that you could have had for that amount of money. I mean, if you're leaving $20, $30 left on the table at the end of the draft, what'd you do? I mean, you just missed out on a second, third round player, right?
And it never fails. Every auction draft that we're in, there's always that one dickhead manager who doesn't spend any money. The top 50 players are already gone off the board, and he hasn't spent a goddamn dollar yet.
No, and they think they're so smart. Oh, well,
I'm going to get all the players I want.
No, you don't have any top 5 players. You don't have anything great. You have nothing to build a good roster around. And that's why we advocate spending your money. Now, not necessarily spend it all. You don't spend it all early, unless you do. And if you do, that's fine.
It's better to do that than leave money.
Right. If you take 4 top 10 players and all of a sudden your budget's down to $1 per player to fill out the rest of your roster, that's better than ignoring or leaving a whole second, third round player. Just oops, I could have had that and I didn't have it.
So Tom, how do you get the players you want without spending all the money?
Well, all right. First of all, you are going to have to spend some money, but I have a personal favorite strategy, which is I don't nominate. When it's my turn to nominate a player, I'm all about obfuscation and misinformation, disinformation. I don't nominate any player I actually want. And that there's no actual real strategic need for that. except for I'm trying to get everybody else in the league to spend their money first. Not that I'm not going to spend money again, but if you've got a couple of similar point guards, similarly valued point guards, and you can get them off the board first and have somebody else who needs a point guard spend their money, so they're not going to be able to spend money when you're nominating or somebody else nominates the guy you want, then you're going to get the guy you want at probably a lesser amount.
Okay, I like that.
So you try to get everybody else in the league to spend their money as fast as you are, if not faster. And part of that, say you've got some auto pick teams, somebody auto drafting, they're not actually at the draft. We call that feeding the bots, right? You nominate Brook Lopez type players, Kyrie Irving,
Kobe Bryant.
Right, anybody that's kind of like too old or you don't want, doesn't fit your strategy, get them off the board. Get somebody else in the league to spend their money. So again, your players are still going to be sitting there when it's their turn to get nominated. Mostly, people might have already spent their money, and you can get them for face value or a little bit less sometimes. Not always, but that does kind of save you the whole bidding war trouble.
Yeah. And then speaking of that, the bidding war, you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. Like, there might be a player that you really want. Let's just say Kawhi Leonard. Like, you want him, that's how you're kind of building your team. Like, okay, I want
Kawhi.
2 late first-round players. I'm going to, but there's that dickhead Spurs fan that's in the draft who's going to go no limits and spend all of his money to make sure that he gets Kawhi Leonard because he's wearing his Kawhi Leonard jersey in the draft.
Right, and all right, so Kawhi's well past your price ceiling, the amount of money you're willing to spend on that player. You scale it back, right? We go back to our core draft strategy. We've had a little bit of time to plan for this. We know our backup players. So you're not going to get Kawhi because he's going for $70 instead of $50 or whatever it happens to be. But then now, maybe you can get, Jimmy Butler? You can get him for a little less money.
Right.
You can get a Paul George. Similar types of players, less money.
Absolutely. And also kind of going along like this, just keeping the Spurs fan in the example. Like, this asshole is a Spurs fan. His little logo is a Spurs team. His name is Go Spurs. So you're trying to maybe get him pay more for Timmy Duncan than you would, than he would want to. So he wants them. You saw how much he spent for Kawhi Leonard. So you're bidding a little bit extra more on Timmy, but you got to be careful not to get your hand caught in the cookie jar.
Nope, because when it comes slamming down and your hand's caught in there, you now own that player you didn't really want.
So be careful of that.
Okay, because if you end up with your hand caught in the cookie jar, you can weather that storm, but it changes your draft strategy. Now all of a sudden you have to kind of change up what you're doing.
All right, so what's our last little bit of advice?
Well, again, research, know your strategy, spend your money, but save a little bit of money, right?
Save a little bit,
Not $10, not $20, not $30 or $40, what most of these people, $3, $5, a few extra dollars, because at the end of the draft, player values drop off dramatically. Like, we're talking about $1, and a draft kind of reverts to standard snake type style. So everybody's just getting players they want for $1, but say somebody nominates a player you wanted. That's part of your strategy. You've got that $1 extra. Now you bid $2 on the guy that was a $1 player. You got your guy because nobody else can outbid you now. So you were saving $2, $3, $5 maybe max to make sure you got the guys you wanted at the end of the draft.
All right, so hopefully this auction draft strategy video was helpful for you guys. Be sure to subscribe, give us a thumbs up, follow us on Twitter at letter S, the word double, letter A,
at
FSAA.
Check out our website, Fantasy Sports Addicts Anonymous, or
And
fantasysportsaddicts.com. Jesus.
FantasySportsAddicts.com, yeah.
Okay, it's a great website.
And also, we still have a couple open slots for our Fantasy Sports Addicts basketball league. If you want to join, get at us.
It's not too late. Hit us up.
All right, you want to go ahead and give us the Serenity Prayer?
Please. Fantasy gods!
Fantasy guys!
Please grant me the serenity to spend money wisely in an auction draft, the courage to spend money aggressively if I need to, and the wisdom to know that once the draft's over, player values reset, and I can make good trades. Amen!
Amen!
All right, thanks for watching. Good luck this season. Go do an auction draft, and yeah, we'll see you next time.
Kick ass.